Welcome back, marketers. Today we are going to be talking about innovation. This is the second in our series of videos that is focused on the product, the first of our P's in the marketing mix that we are talking about. When we think about products, what we've already talked about is how we classify products, okay, and the different components of a product, the layers of a product. Today we're going to talk about the process of innovation and the new product development process. So let's get into it. So there are 7 phases in the new product development process, and we're going to walk through each of them today, talk about some examples. So our first phase is coming up with the idea. We call this phase idea generation. And in this phase, we are using a variety of sources to come up with ideas for new products. This could be talking to salespeople to see, what types of things do customers ask for that we're not offering. This could be utilizing our customer service area and all of the different inquiries that we've gotten and trying to figure out, is there a gap in the things that we're offering, something that people are calling and asking for, or problems that they're having with things that already exist. How can we improve that? How can we change that? This could be talking with customer service agents, kind of the same thing, looking at those different logs. This could be interviewing customers, doing focus groups. This could be observing customers as they are walking through the grocery store or as they are picking out a wedding dress, and just really trying to gather all of our different stakeholders and get input from a variety of different areas. A lot of times companies, especially those who are actively developing new products at any given time, are really always on the lookout for new ideas, right? And figuring out this, going through this process of idea generation on a pretty continuous basis. The next phase is going to be product concept development and screening. So here we're going to start testing ideas for both technical success. Can we actually build this? Is this something we can actually make? Can we actually make it taste like whatever it is the idea is? Can we actually, make it function in this certain way? Can we actually create this smell that we want to, that is an idea? Really figuring out, is it actually possible? Is it feasible, given, the resources that we have? Not just financial resources, but is it feasible to actually create the product? There are all kinds of great ideas out there that we just don't have the technology to do, that we may never have the technology to do. Okay. And then the second is commercial success. Maybe we have a great idea. We think we can, we're pretty sure we can make it, but will people actually buy it? Right? Is it really a good idea from a commercial sense? Will people actually purchase it? Can we actually develop it in a way that where we will actually still make money, right? There are lots of things that are very costly to develop, or maybe are also costly to produce. And can we do it in such a way where we can also make a profit off of it, right? To reinvest into those new ideas, and continue along this process. Okay. The next phase, phase 3, is going to be marketing strategy development. So we have our list of ideas. We've gone through them. We've screened the ones that are actually possible, that we think would be both successful from a technical sense and a commercial sense, profitability. Now we moved on to phase 3, where we're actually developing a plan to put that product out into the marketplace, right? Thinking about what is, what would our marketing mix be for this idea, for this new product. Okay. Phase 4 is going to be our business analysis. So now we have gone a little bit further, not just looking at production, which we looked at in phase 2. Okay. Can the product be produced? Do we think we can sell it for a certain price? But really looking at all of the other aspects of the business of the product. How much would we need to spend on advertising? How much would packaging be? What about the logistics and distribution? All of those things have a cost associated with them. Do we still think given what we know now, we've come up with the product and the marketing strategy. Is this still a commercially viable product for us to develop and produce? If it is, then we move on to the next phase. Basically, each of these are stage grades, right? If you don't pass 1 to 2, if you don't pass on level 2, right, where we're screening it for technical and commercial development, then you don't move on. Only those ideas that would be technically possible and potentially commercially successful can move on to phase 3. Then we develop the marketing strategy around those, and only those where we can develop a marketing strategy that we feel like makes sense, move on to the next phase, okay? We do our business analysis. There are going to be some products that do not pass that phase, right? They don't make sense from a business standpoint, from the actual looking at, is it viable? If it is, then we move on to phase 5, technical development, where we actually are developing the product itself. Okay, up until this point, we have not actually had even a prototype of this product. Maybe we had some sketches and some drawings, but we didn't have a working, fully functioning prototype. So this is that point. We're developing that prototype. We might need to apply for patents at this stage, and really getting the actual manufacturing figured out. That phase is called technical development. Okay. Something to note here is that when we get to this technical development stage, sometimes we sort of skip over the other things when we're extending our product line, when we're taking an existing product, okay, and just adding something to it, such as a new flavor of Fanta, or a new flavor of Oreos, or a new scent in a Glade candle. It's still the same process to develop the Glade candle. All we're changing is the scent. Packaging and everything is, basically the same. We're just changing a few things. Okay, so at that point is where sometimes we drop in, at the technical development point, is where sometimes we drop in these, we'll talk about it in a minute, but these continuous innovations, where we're just changing a little bit about the product. But these things still may require multiple prototypes till we get to the finalized version of it. Okay. It may take a few recipes, if you will, to figure out the right blend of ingredients to create, I don't know, Fanta elderberry. Okay. I don't know. And then also in the next phase, when we get to consumer testing. Okay. So we have the technical development where we're figuring out the recipe, we're testing it with consumers to make sure it actually functions and, tastes right or works. Then if we're not just adding a flavor, if we're back to our regularly scheduled programming where we're talking about the brand new product, right? We want to make sure that it's tested. We may have to develop multiple prototypes because the first one just didn't work the way we thought it was going to. Or maybe it worked the way we thought it was going to, but when we went and had some consumers look at it, it didn't work for them, for our target market. Okay. So after we've gone through all those phases, now at this point, we're pretty committed to the product. We've put in a lot of resources. So we're going to move on to phase 6, which is test marketing. Okay. So this is where we will typically pick a smaller geographic region that we feel like is representative of the broader market that we're going to be in. And we will actually we'll have a complete marketing plan, campaign, distribution, actually put the product in stores in that area. And then we just test to see how it went. For example, about a year ago, actually, not terribly long ago, here in the upstate of South Carolina, we were a test market for Chick-fil-A. They had a new sandwich. It was like pimento cheese, chicken sandwich with pimento cheese and bacon and like maple syrup or something and sriracha. A whole bunch of different flavors were in there. But we were a test market for that sandwich. I was hoping that it was going to be a successful test market. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But if that goes, typically, if you put it in a test market and it goes well, then that would be a good sign that you want to move on to actually commercializing it and bring it out in the broader region. And that is our phase 7, our last phase of the new product development process, commercialization. Okay, so this is where we actually launch the product into the full market. We have full scale production, full scale distribution. We're distributing to all the outlets that we had previously decided on. All of our advertising campaigns are going out at this point, any sales promotions, all of that whole marketing mix is in place in the broader market. Okay. And that is our new product development process. As you can see, there's a lot of different stage gates, a lot of places where an idea has gone ways into the process and doesn't kind of pass where it needs to, it just doesn't make it to the next stage. A lot of new products fail, a lot of new businesses fail. And so putting in that time and effort before you get to full commercialization can help companies to better allocate their resources, to wisely allocate their resources. So a lot of our products, some products that come out are what we call innovations. Most products fall somewhere on the spectrum of innovation. So for us, we consider innovation anything that consumers perceive as new or different. This could be something that dramatically changes how they dramatically changes their lives, or this could be something really small, really minor, like a new flavor, a new scent. We're in the fall right now. There's tons and tons of like pumpkin spice coffees and pumpkin spice ice cream and pumpkin spice everything, everything. This has been a really growing area. It's kind of, this is new in the last decade to have a million pumpkin spice things, pumpkin spice Cheerios, right? Just anything you can possibly have, they add this pumpkin spice to. But do consumers perceive it as new and different and interesting? Yes, they do. Absolutely, they do. Okay. So sometimes it's just that minor change, and sometimes it's a brand new thing entirely. Okay. So we have 3 major types of innovations. We're going to talk about each of them. We have dynamically continuous, discontinuous, and continuous. Okay, so 3 types. So we're going to start with the simplest. A continuous innovation is just a modification to an existing product. It still is a modification that consumers perceive as new and different, but it is a change to something that already exists. This is definitely our most common type of innovation. Again, we see it every fall. There's something else that comes out with a pumpkin spice variation, holiday flavors, spring, all kinds of different seasonal things. I think Oreo is one of my favorite examples. Every time I go to the grocery store, there's a new flavor of Oreos. I think my favorite was one year they had 4th of July Oreos that had pop rocks in them, like firework Oreos. But they have Easter Oreos, where the marshmallow is like the Peep Chick marshmallow. It's yellow. So they're just constantly coming out with these continuous innovations, these new flavors, these small changes. We see this also with technology products like cell phones. Every couple of years, they're coming out with a new version that is it's a modification really to something that already exists. Appliances do this every few years where something new comes out. So most of our innovations fall into this category of continuous innovation. Our next category is dynamically continuous innovation. Okay, so this is still a modification to an existing product. Okay, but this is going to be something that is a pronounced modification. It's a big modification. It's a game-changing modification. Okay. Typically, one of the ways we can tell this is that it would require some amount of learning. Consumers have to learn how to use it. It's not just another flavor or scent of a candle. All you have to, there's no learning involved. This is something where there is modification to an existing product and consumers have to learn how to use it. So I'm going to pause for a second. Can you think of anything that you think falls into this category of dynamically continuous innovation? Okay. All right. So I would say that we have seen a lot of this in the technology space over the years. So, for example, when we moved from a CD player to then they came out with a Walkman. Okay. And it was, or a tape player on a Walkman with a tape. Okay. The mobile version of, being able to carry your music around with you. That was a dynamically continuous innovation. It was still a CD, it still played a CD, it's still a CD player, it still was a tape player. Okay. But it was something that was people were able to carry around with them. It was small enough. And it did require some getting used to, some learning. I would say adding a camera to a smartphone has probably been a dynamically continuous innovation. A variety of different, probably smartphone related things have been dynamically continuous innovations. Adding apps and being able to access your email and things like that, all dynamically continuous innovations, things that require consumers to learn, but still were an addition or a modification to an existing product. All right, then we have convergence. So convergence is a type of or form of dynamically continuous innovation. It is where two different technologies come together to create a new system. Can you think of anything that falls into this category? I think my favorite example, most current example I could think of would be smartwatches, right? We have watches, it's not a new thing. And smartphones are, at least at this point, not a new thing. But to combine them together into one system is a new thing. Okay, even to add the smartwatches that have your email, and they also have the heart rate monitors. Heart rate monitors, is a separate thing. All of these different systems coming together in the smartwatch are two or more systems coming together to form this new system. Okay, we see this a lot in the technology area. Okay, so now let's talk about the final type of innovation. This is discontinuous innovation. Okay. And this is something that is a major change in people's lives. It makes a major difference in the way people live. Okay. And one of the ways we can tell this is that it takes more. It's not just an existing product that we modified. It's a new product, completely new. And consumers have to learn how to use it. So probably my favorite example would be a microwave. Microwaves dramatically transformed the way that Americans or people around the world cook their food. It took something that would take, a lot more time and shrunk the time down, and really changed how people cooked. And it didn't just change how people cooked, it brought along with it other innovations, right? Like TV dinners, right? Or any microwave popcorn, or those steamer bags for your vegetables that you just put the bag in the microwave and it cooks your vegetables. It brought along with a lot of things and really it made a huge difference in people's lives. And it also led to differences in people's lives. There's this story I heard in one of my marketing classes long ago about when they were developing cake mixes. Okay. So, your cake mix, you go to the store, you pick it up, you add a few things, stir it up, and you mix cake, right? So when they were originally developing cake mixes, they had developed it and all you had to add was water. And they went and they tested it with, a variety of different consumers. At the time, it was typically women and typically housewives, and they didn't like it, even though it saved them all this time and energy. They didn't have to buy all the ingredients, all that stuff. They didn't like it. Okay. And the reason they finally figured out was that they didn't feel like they were actually baking a cake. They wanted to feel like they were putting, they needed to have a little bit more effort. So they felt better they felt like it was a real cake, like they were actually making a cake. Okay, so what they ended up doing was changing the ingredients a little bit so that in order to bake the cake, you had to add an egg and I think oil, but it was the egg. It was the egg that was the thing that made the women feel like they were actually baking a cake. Okay. Which I think is just so fascinating, right? They made it as easy as it could possibly be, but it was too easy for it to be widely accepted by their target market. Okay. So discontinuous innovation, something that dramatically changes people's lives. This could be anything from a microwave to like penicillin, right? Dramatically change people's lives. So generally speaking, when we think about innovation and developing new products, we think about this in terms of how consumers view it, and also on the innovation side, and also how companies view it on that new product development process. But both of these really haven't gotten into how do we actually distribute it and get it into the hands of people? How do we get them to accept it? Okay, maybe that's by making more prototypes, testing more, like I was talking about with the testing of the cake mixes and figuring out what it is that our target market is looking for. Okay, but then once we figure that all out, we bring it into the market. Okay, then what? Right? The question is, then what? So we're going to come back in the next video and we are going to talk about the diffusion of innovation and product adoption by the widespread market. So I am excited to come back and talk with you about that soon.